Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together, one frame at a time. Hey guys, Randy Younger here, Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together, one frame at a time. And we're going to go behind the bars tonight with some prison movie talk. But before we get into that, I just want to introduce my wonderful panel of guest critics. We have a great scholar of film right here.
Thank you.
And a mentor to me, I must say.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Mr. Evan Ginzburg. Evan, hi.
Hi, great to be back.
Yeah, welcome back to Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, of course. And also here, Mr. Brian Smith. Welcome back, sir. I know you've been on a few times recently, and it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So, guys, we're going to talk about some prison movies. I know that sounds a little weird, a little bleak maybe, but I want to talk about specifically a new film that has come out called Sing Sing. And it stars Coleman Domingo as a man who's been incarcerated, and he basically starts up a theater group for the inmates in the Sing Sing maximum security prison. And basically through this program, it is actually called Rehabilitation Through the Arts, so RTA. And it's a good way for prisoners to have a voice and to basically vent their frustration and to have a creative outlet in a very depressing setting. Coleman Domingo plays the inmate John Divine G. Whitfield, who starts the program RTA, and it's about the inmates who basically stage a production, and it's really about hope, holding on to hope, I'd say, and really just the importance of survival in a prison system. And this film actually showcased the talents of actual RTA alum. Actual prisoners are in this film, with not Coleman, but the supporting characters are played by real-life prisoners, which is, I think, it's a fantastic thing. And I love this movie. We were talking about this earlier, how it's at kind of the top of our list for the year so far. But yeah, this is definitely at the top for me. Evan, what were your thoughts?
It shows their vulnerability. One of the lead characters says, "I'm a gangster," and as the movie progresses, you see him soften and become more human. And it's a beautiful film, and I honestly think it's the best film I've seen thus far this year.
Yeah.
You go down to the multiplex, and so much of the films are franchise films and really for kids, and this is a very adult film with real themes and issues. Really salvation. These guys find themselves through theater, through acting, through being vulnerable, through this shared experience. I was deeply moved by it, and I think Coleman has a real shot at an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, I think he's definitely getting a nomination.
You will not see a better performance than this.
We'll see. I mean, this is pretty great. Yeah. And he was actually nominated last year for Rustin, which was also a fantastic film where he played a civil rights activist. So he's playing real life figures here. And they're not superheroes they're not huge epic blockbusters. We need more movies like this. I always say that on my show. We need smaller films, important films that have something to say.
He does more acting with his eyes than some actors do with 5 pages of script.
Right.
You could see what he's thinking. You could see what he's feeling. He's tremendous, tremendous. And
he's really great.
I can't say enough good things about this film.
Yeah, agreed. Brian, your thoughts? I'm sure you have some.
Yeah, I enjoyed the film. I agree with the assessment that it does touch on the vulnerability, particularly male vulnerability, but it's not necessarily like your typical prison movie.
Right.
It's almost in a way art imitating life, in the fact that when one of the characters says, let's make something that's has a little more levity, in terms of like the play that they want to put on, because the film itself kind of reflects that as well, and it's not like your typical sort of hard-hitting prison movie. It's like it's more about the characters. It's more about how they relate to each other. You're not there to focus on whatever crimes they've committed or anything like that. It's more about, hey, let's put on a show and getting to know the characters and sort of breaking through their hard exterior.
Right.
But the thing with Coleman, I think Coleman Domingo really he really carries the film in his performance, and he's just always great at bringing that vulnerability to his roles. And I think he's a great anchor for the rest of the cast, who are, as you said, are all former inmates, and they all did fantastic work. I mean, sort of pulling from experience in their own ways. So, yeah, it's just I agree with the potential Oscar nominee. I think they're even starting to talk right now. But yeah, I think Coleman brings he really elevates the material. He elevates the other performers, and I was really impressed with it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, and obviously, you don't particularly think of a prison movie as showcasing, an artistic, vulnerable side from the inmates.
Right.
Especially since they're being played by actual inmates. Mm-hmm. So it really is a great thing, and it's a really nice transition that we have from like previous prison movies over the decades. They're kind of formulaic, beat up a guy on your first day and you'll be good. Right. This is really about the human spirit.
What I found interesting in one scene, one of the inmates, one of the guys playing one of the actors, he says, we're sitting at breakfast and somebody slashed the guy from ear to ear, and we're supposed to feel this is normal, and it isn't. And you don't see the act, but you could visualize it because they're such good actors. Yeah. There's no graphic violence. There's no blood in the film. Right. But you could feel the tension. Yeah. You could sense it. The random searches of their cells where they turn it over for no reason, really.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you could feel, the horrific conditions that they're living under without all the prison movie cliches.
Exactly,
right. Yeah, it's a great film.
Yeah, we know all about that already. We know the cliches. We don't need to see it. It's just kind of implied here. And I just love this fact. I can't even think of another film like this, to take a situation, certain people in a certain environment, and then introducing this sort of like therapy to kind of like bring out the best side of them. I don't think I've ever seen, or at least seen it done this well in a movie. So, but yeah, Coleman Domingo, I'll be honest, I don't know much about his work previously.
I knew him from Fear the Walking Dead.
Okay, I never really got into those.
He was one of the lead guys
that's
in that series. Yeah.
Okay.
And since then, he's done really great film work.
Like last year was great for him. He did Rustin, which I mentioned, and also he was the Danny Glover character in the Color Purple remake.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys saw that one.
Not yet, no.
But he was good. I think he was painfully underused in that. And
I believe he was in the Candyman reboot.
Was he?
Requel, yeah.
Well, he wasn't Candyman though.
No, he was playing a character that knew of. He sort of told the plot and that sort of thing. But he was great in that.
Yeah, I really want to see more of his stuff and see where he's going to go now after this, because he can only go up. I hope.
This is a small, low-budget indie film, and in spite of it, it's a miraculous film. It's a beautiful film.
Yeah, I think it's a top 5 for me of the year so far.
Absolutely.
Brian, what do you think? Is it on your list?
It's not necessarily my genre, but I appreciate the performance. I think Coleman's really good, so I can throw in a nom for him, early nom for him. Yeah, he's good.
I love it, and I love the fact that it's a true story, and
what
that's
were those
what gets
meetings
me.
like? Yeah, I'm wondering, like, when that pitch, I mean, it's great. It all worked out, but I'd be curious to know more about the background and the making of it.
Well, the director is Greg Cuidar. I think I'm mispronouncing that. But I think he's done a great job because this film just has a great look. It's very gritty. They actually filmed it. They didn't film it at Sing Sing, but they filmed it at, I believe, an abandoned correctional facility. So it was very authentic in its visual representation. So
it has these great one-shots, and it almost has like a documentary feel to it.
Right.
You forget they're acting. You feel like you're coming in and seeing this real theater group in a prison. It rings true. It totally rings true.
I don't think I was aware that they used prison. I just saw the movie and wasn't aware that they actually used.
During the credits.
Yeah, they fantastic. And talk about the theater director as well. Was his name, Paul Raci?
The actor. Him and Coleman, I think, were like
the only two actors.
Some of the only few real actors.
Yeah. Even Coleman's friend in the film, was it Sean San Jose, whose friend in there? I thought he was an actor too.
Okay.
Apparently he was playing himself as well. So yeah,
It adds to the realism.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't give enough praise for rehabilitation through the arts. RTA, what a great idea! What a great thing for these people in these prisons, and they really need it because they're not animals just caged up. They're human beings, and they have emotions that need to get out. And I'm sure it's just in that type of environment, it's just stifled. But when you have RTA there, it just lets them be their best self, which is really commendable, I'd say.
Is it primarily stage work, right? Does it?
I think they do some
branch into
dance
music?
too.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's cool.
So,
Very cool.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic film. No, I can't say enough about it. Also, I want to mention that it will be shown at the San Quentin Film Festival.
Perfect.
Which,
Interesting.
which is the first such film festival to be held inside a prison. So it'll be screened there October 10th and 11th. So let's go, guys. No, I'm kidding.
Do they only show prison movies? I'm a desperate filmmaker. I'll send anywhere.
Yeah. I
kidding.
mean, I don't know, actually. That's a very good question. We're going to have to research that after the show. But the San Quentin Film Festival, it is a thing.
I'll
And
look on Film
it is
Freeway,
very
so-
real. So last final thoughts on Sing Sing, Brian?
Yeah, I think the performances are great. Coleman's great. Really impressed with what they were able to do with the former inmates who were, I mean, obviously they have the experience with being on the stage and stuff, but film and stage are two different things. And they were such naturalistic performances. The direction was great, and I appreciated that. It didn't sort of give us the typical prison cliches, and, the violence. It kept it. It's not necessarily part of the story that they wanted to tell. So.
Right. That's not at the forefront. The fact that they're in prison, that's kind of the side thing,
the backdrop,
side story.
Yeah.
It's just the art is
Very
really what this
human,
movie's
yeah.
about. Yeah. Evan, how about you?
Yeah, forget the 17th franchise film, the comic book movie, summer blockbuster. Forget about that.
Yes.
Go see a great indie like Sing Sing.
Agreed.
That's my point. Yeah.
That's your 2 cents.
Yeah.
But I'm going to echo that and say, this movie is really great. And I just saw it once. I went to a screening of it at my local theater. And, this is the type of movie that warrants multiple viewings. Because I'm pretty sure if I see it again, I'll pick up some stuff that I missed the first time. I'll appreciate it even more. That I don't think I'll get that with Twisters.
I saw it at the Angelica.
Oh.
Great popcorn there.
Oh yeah.
They're not a sponsor. I don't know.
Yeah, Twisters. I came, I saw, I left. That's pretty much sums up that popcorn movie.
I know. It's sad.
I like Twisters.
You did? Okay.
I didn't dislike it, but I could have lived without it. It didn't leave me with what a Sing Sing does.
Well,
Right.
I didn't want to miss it in theaters during 4DX time because it only had like a limited window. In 4DX,
See, that's a very appropriate movie for that.
the trailer alone, I was like, oh, I'm seeing this in 4DX.
Special effects were great, but
Yeah.
the characters, it was cliched.
It's a very wet movie. Afterwards, the floor
That's
was
right.
all soaking wet.
I just, before we veer off too much,
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen some callbacks to the 1996 film because
The 1996 film was a better film.
a much better
Much
film.
better.
There's a little- yeah, I mean, even back then they were kind of light on the plot, but
Yeah.
it's aged pretty well.
But it was Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton who really cemented it
Yeah.
and made it a fun movie.
There's like I think wardrobe callbacks, like she's wearing like the white tank top.
I
and
noticed that
everything.
too,
Yeah,
right.
It's little.
I want to
visual-
notice that.
I mean, that was like Helen Hunt's like signature look. So it was like, there's like moments where the main character in this one she kind of harkens back to, but there's no real
Yeah.
connection. It's
And I've mentioned this on the show before. I am not a huge fan of Glenn Powell. I just think he's a good-looking guy. That's about it.
I think he's good. He was really good in Top Gun, but he's sort of. I worry for his career because they're kind of doing that McConaughey thing where they like overexpose someone after a while, and you're like, okay, he's in everything, and it's like.
Yeah, but over the past 3 years or so,
He's good.
They put him in pretty much everything, in every genre.
He's
too.
good, but it's like
Yeah.
he's got to do something dark and
He needs to get out of that shell that he's.
The unwritten law was that Matt Damon and Samuel L. Jackson were in every second movie. So now you have this guy.
Yeah. So give someone else a chance. Here we go.
right.
Yeah. And we're not knocking him. He's to the viewing and listening audience. Where
Gotcha.
you know.
All right, enough of Glenn Powell.
Yeah.
So basically, Sing Sing obviously a prison movie, but not a prison movie. I mean, it's an artistic movie. It's a movie about the soul, I'd say. And I just want to kind of segue into some other prison movies, which are a lot. Evan, some of your favorites off the top of your head?
Birdman of Alcatraz with Burt Lancaster, which goes back to the 1960 or so. That's as great a prison movie as you're ever going to see. Escape from Alcatraz, Clint Eastwood. That was a very good film. Cool Hand Luke.
Of course.
Cool Hand Luke. Maybe the greatest prison movie.
I could eat 40 eggs, right? Class.
What about you guys? Great prison movies.
Yeah, Brian.
Well, prison movies are a bit of a blind spot for me. I mean, I've seen some of the Pam Grier ones.
All right.
The shower sequences were always great.
They're a bit interchangeable. I know Pam Grier and Sid Haig are usually. It was like the Roger Corman
Sid
films.
Haig. Yeah, that's right.
They made a great team. Actually, they were some of those films. They made a really great team. There's a horror film called Prison that Rennie Harlan directed many years ago, which I've never seen, but I've seen the trailer. I definitely want to check it out.
Okay.
I've seen Oz.
Oh yeah, Oz.
That's where I decided I do not want to go to prison. So,
yeah. And let's not forget the ridiculous comedy "Let's Go to Prison" with I think it was Will Arnett and Will Forte.
Okay.
From 2006. It's just a really silly, dumb movie. Let's see. It's not really a prison movie, but it takes place on a famous prison, The Rock. I'm a huge fan of that movie. It's my one of my favorite.
That's excellent also.
Yeah.
After watching every episode of Oz on HBO, I decided I will never break another law. I will not litter. I will not jaywalk. Nothing.
Yeah, that's a tough
It's
show.
rough.
That's a tough show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see, prison. Oh, so there is one more, a recent film that I wanted to talk about. Brian, I don't believe you saw this one, but that's okay. Add it to your list because it's fantastic. 2013's Starred Up, which takes place in a British prison. Young guy, about 19 at the time, early 20s, played by Jack O'Connell. He gets incarcerated. He is fresh meat, basically, in this prison, and he's really just angry at everyone and everything in the world.
Ultra violent.
It's kind of like a Clockwork Orange,
Really?
a little bit.
Bronson.
Yeah. Tom
it's
Hardy.
like Bronson.
There you go. But this one, it's just I don't know. There's something about it. It's very gritty. It tells a very simple story. It's very visceral, very violent, and every other scene he's beating up the guards, and just there's a scene where he puts baby oil on his body and tries to take on an entire SWAT team. It's a crazy movie. Evan, I know you may have some thoughts on this.
The first 10 or so minutes, there's virtually no dialogue, and he's such a tremendous actor. You see him being put in the prison, strip searched, and you're just looking at his facial expressions, the anger, the humiliation, the horror of it all. And he's a 19-year-old, and Start Up means that he went from juvenile, to the main prison with the adults.
Right.
And speaking of that, I would say one of the flaws, I shouldn't even use the word flaws, but I missed about a third of the dialogue between the prison slang and the British Cockney accents. It was tough, but but again, there were long stretches that didn't even have dialogue.
Yeah.
And you knew what was happening in this film. You could follow it.
Right.
And it's tremendous performance. Gritty and brutal.
Yeah. It's one of the stronger prison films I've ever seen. It might be the best prison film I've ever seen. It just feels so like it's actually happening. Like they're actually getting hit and pushed up against a wall. I also you mentioned the performances, so you've got.
I would put his performance above the movie because I think the movie kind of jumped the shark with the evil, staff, and they want to kill the prisoners. It almost, crossed the line into exploitation and grindhouse at that point. But Jack O'Connell, his performance is so tremendous.
It's very good.
You can't take your eyes off of him. He's seething, and for that reason, I would say don't miss this film.
Yeah. And also, aside from Jack's great performance, you also have Ben Mendelsohn,
The father.
who plays the father.
Tremendous.
Oh, my God. This guy, I believe he's a New Zealand actor. I could be mistaken.
And he's also a sociopath like the son. See, that's part of the interesting thing. It's hard to root for these guys, but
Australian. He's Australian, sorry.
But as the film progresses, again, you see some of their vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And he addresses the fact that he was molested as a kid, and that's where a lot of the anger comes from.
Right.
But he is a sociopath.
They're both crazy.
Yeah, and brutally violent.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
Brian, has this description made you want to see it at all? Or?
I'll add it to my ever-growing
Yeah.
list.
The face slashings will
Oh, yeah.
are lovely. Yeah.
Wow. Who directed it?
Actually, it's David Mackenzie, who you probably know. He would later go on to direct Hell or High Water.
That's a really good film.
With Jeff Bridges and Chris Pine.
Right? Yeah.
Excellent film.
Yeah,
Ben
I
Foster, yeah.
I bought that. Yeah.
That's a great movie too.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So
I was like,
That's a better film than this.
it is. It's
But this
more cohesive.
performance is tremendous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go revisit that. That was one of those movies where it's not my genre, but I loved it when I saw it. I was like, this is really good.
Yeah. So the director's name is David Mackenzie, and yeah, he's done a couple of things, but I'd say this and Hell or High Water are two of his more high-profile film projects.
Okay.
But
Sounds good.
English director. Let's see other prison movies. Anything, Brian?
I mean, it's not one of my favorites. Does Alien 3 come to mind?
Yeah, okay.
It's on a prison colony. It's not.
there you go.
Yeah.
That qualifies.
This
That is
will
good.
be the one time I acknowledge the movie.
And it's an interesting dynamic because you've got Sigourney Weaver, who's like right in the middle of all these male savage guys. Like, are they going to kill her, rape her? But she basically holds her own as Ripley because she's such a strong character in the entire franchise.
She's a great actress. She's
Yeah.
just one of my favorites. Yeah, it's one of those films where like I like Alien, I like Aliens, and I like that's where it ends. But for the purpose of this topic, I will mention Alien 3.
Yes.
I don't usually acknowledge it.
I did not even think that was going to appear tonight as a reference.
The 70s, prison films shot in the Philippines, like Caged Heat. You can't go wrong for grindhouse gore. And
I mean, it was a whole
genre.
industry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good time for film.
Oh, you know what I remember? Was it? Oh, it was Reform School, but was it Reform School Girls? Does that kind of count?
Yeah, it's in the vein.
I remember seeing that on like USA Up All Night, and I was like, "This is actually a really good movie." And I
Okay.
remember the trailer and everything, and you don't expect it to be good, but
What about Locked Up with Stallone?
I seem to remember that one too. Okay,
Escape
okay.
Plan, they had also
Yeah.
with Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
Well, here's a good one. It is technically a prison, but Escape from New York, where
Okay.
the entire island of Manhattan is a prison. I mean, that's a great concept, in my opinion.
And Ox Baker is the villain.
Oh, that's right.
Ox Baker appears in a film I was a producer on, 350 Days, the documentary.
Oh, he was in
wrestling
that?
documentary.
Oh, okay.
That's right, yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, we love Ox Baker. He's gone now, but a
Right.
colorful guy.
Yeah. Did you get to meet him?
Oh, yeah, many
Oh,
times.
that's cool.
yeah.
Could we consider the Maze Runner films? Have you ever seen
The
those?
Maze Runner. Oh, I haven't seen any of those.
They're actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember revisiting them. There's like 3 of them, and they're actually 2 or 3 of them, and they're pretty good. It's like a bunch of teens they're in a future world, and they're stuck in this maze, and there's like creatures and things, and they have to fight each other.
And they're being like attacked by is it a supernatural force?
I don't think so. It's like a future world where they're made to fight each other. I could be getting the plot.
That sounds
wrong,
like
but,
The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
kind of, sort
little
of,
bit?
yeah.
Okay.
It was better. It's more watchable than I expected it to be. So
Every third American International picture in the 70s was a woman in prison movie.
pretty much.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
There's probably like a box set of all the Pam Grier,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Corman.
Yeah, Roger Corman.
Yeah. Classics.
I forget the titles, but I know they were all similar.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the big cage bird, the big birdcage.
Yeah, Big Birdcage. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just Pam Grier, Sid Haig. You get the 2 of them in a prison. They become friends and
nice.
help each other out.
And don't forget the Ilsa movies.
Ilsa.
Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS.
Okay.
That's real grindhouse 70s prison movies. Those are rough.
I love it.
There were multiple Ilsa films. Diane Thorne.
Here's what I'm going.
I'm older than you guys. That's how I remember all
Well,
this.
you know what? I'm going to go back even further. 1953, Stalag 17.
That's very different than Filipino 70s women in prison
But
movies.
prison.
That's a great film,
Yes,
Stalag
yes.
17.
Billy Wilder. I mean,
Oh,
come
yeah.
on, you can't go wrong. That's a fantastic film. I believe it's like a Nazi prison camp.
Yeah, and they're trying to escape.
Right.
And somebody dies like in the first scene.
And
It's-
there's
yeah.
a mole within the unit, and they don't know
Yeah.
who it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's an excellent film. That's a classic.
Right.
You can't mention that in the same breath as Roger Corman's 70s sexploitation films.
Right. It's a general overview.
That's a pretty good premise. I gotta.
Yeah,
Keep
it's
an eye on
such
that.
a good movie. And those listening and watching, Billy Wilder, one of the all-time great directors. You might know him best for Some Like It Hot, The Fortune Cookie, all the collaborations with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. Also, Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
What Sabrina, just a fantastic director. Billy Wilder,
yeah.
you know. That's film history.
I find it interesting when young people make comments online like, you know, every black and white film was boring. No, no. Simply put, no.
Just because it's black and white,
Right.
it's boring.
Or I don't understand why people break into dances and musicals. Like people wouldn't do that in real life. Like no suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation on where
You could do 30 minutes on that.
where culture is headed in terms of how people
Like
respond.
I found it amazing that Spielberg's West Side Story, which I thought was a masterpiece, nobody went. I sat in a theater with 9 people.
I saw it.
Wow.
9 people. It was a masterpiece.
Yeah, it was really well done. It was a nice, it was a different take.
People didn't
obviously.
embrace it.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the performances from the main characters, the main actors. But I don't know. I don't really think it was necessary to remake it.
You could say that about any masterpiece.
That's true. But,
You know?
as I'm saying this right now, they're probably putting together a remake of Back to the Future, which, you never know.
Did they need to remake Psycho? It's one of the greatest films ever
Don't
made.
get
That
me
was
started on
Shot
that
by
one.
shot.
That was
I
really,
I saw that one in the theater, and
Yeah.
people were pretty depressed afterwards.
that was Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates.
Yeah,
And Anne Heche, who
yeah.
plays the shower.
Which doesn't mean it's not worthy in and of itself, but did you need to remake a masterpiece?
Right.
No.
Well, it was shot for shot. Like the
Yeah.
potential was there, the cast was there, but the heart wasn't in it. That's
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Like I can watch it and say, oh, they're just saying the lines.
Yeah, it's an
familiar
empty
lines.
shell.
That's really what
It's
it
a
was.
shadow of a classic.
You
Not
might as well
even-
just flip that. Put the camera behind the house on the hill, which is a shell.
And in 1960, when Psycho came out, it was shocking.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that bloody, but
No.
it was so well done. You could imagine all the blood. You saw a little blood in the show, but nothing dramatic.
Yeah, I think they used either chocolate syrup
There's chocolate syrup. Yeah.
or was it like ink from a newspaper? One of those.
I always heard it was
chocolate syrup.
chocolate syrup. Yeah, because
But
Classic.
people didn't want to take a shower after that. It was like after Jaws, people didn't want to go
Right.
swimming. That's what a great movie will do.
Just
to
when you thought it was safe to go back in the shower.
and the I don't know if it's with age, but as I watch it as I get older, it's like Jaws and Psycho are very effective now.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
watching it now, and I'm thinking, oh man, those poor audiences back then, they had no idea what was
Yeah.
coming to them. There's just, I mean, we don't have to go too much into Psycho, but the
Right.
shower scene is still so effective because there's that brief moment where she does have a bit of hope, and then it just keeps going. And Psycho's Jaws is the same with.
And speaking
Yeah.
of people jumping out of their seats, the original Halloween, when you
Oh,
saw it in
that
a
too.
theater, people were
can only imagine,
jumping
yeah.
out of their seats.
Yeah. And there was no blood in that.
Yeah,
No blood,
there was
no
no blood, and you didn't need 10 sequels because
It's
none of them
pure-
touched the original.
I think it's more than 10, actually.
Whatever it is,
It's-
none of them
it's
touched
just-
the original.
That's right.
It's just pure tension, and
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite
That
movies.
first time you see something great like that, you can't replicate it. You can't capture
Yeah.
the lightning back in the bottle.
Exactly. Ditto Dawn of the Dead. The original was so much better than the
Yeah.
remake. When you saw that in the theater, people were jumping out of their chairs.
Right.
because the effects were so effective, I guess.
Oh, you know what?
It's suspenseful.
Speaking of horror films, guys, I just want to mention real quick. August 24th, I believe, in Huntington, Long Island, they're going to be showing. It's going to be a horror movie marathon at the Cinema Arts Center.
Oh, that's a beautiful little theater. Support it.
So here, it's a movie marathon from it's Saturday 8 p.m. ends at 5 a.m. the next day.
Let me know. I'll go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna go.
Yeah.
Last year they did a zombie movie marathon. It was hilarious. It was great.
I love horror flicks.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk more after the show.
We got to do a horror episode then.
Oh,
That sounds good.
Yeah, I know my horror.
All
I
right.
love it. I love it. We'll figure something out. But guys,
know
we
what
just
festival to invite.
yes. So guys, we have like 1 minute. I just want to go around. Any plugs? Anything going on you want to talk about?
Yours truly, the associate producer on The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Check out Evan Ginzburg's Old School Wrestling Memories on Facebook.
Nice.
And Wrestling Then and Now. It's a documentary we just re-released.
Oh, nice.
Killer Kowalski, Don Arnold, Nikolai Volkov, other legends.
Nice. The wrestling expert right here.
Thank you.
Brian, how about you? Any projects?
Yeah, so I'm with the New York City Horror Film Festival. I'm one of the programmers and head of the screenplay competition. Our deadline is September 1st. We'll be in December, the festival itself. So get your films in on Film Freeway and, look forward to seeing your stuff.
Awesome. And as for me, you can check out new episodes of Under the Radar through Slam Radio on SiriusXM. That's every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Also, the video version of this podcast will be broadcast on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and that's every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And as always, feel free to subscribe and share the Under the Radar YouTube channel. And I just want to thank my wonderful guest tonight, Evan Ginzburg.
And thank you for turning me on to these two great films.
Sure.
And for supporting indie films, because not everybody does. Thank you, Randy. Seriously.
Of course, they're great films. They need to be watched, We need to get more eyeballs on these great films. And Brian Smith, thank you so much again for being here as well.
Thanks for having me.
You guys are always welcome. And I'm Randy Younger. This has been Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together, one frame at a time. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Take care.